Carl Groves here from Tenon.io. I wanted to talk about one of my favorite features, which is site monitors. And site monitors are an excellent way of painlessly and quickly automatically testing all pages of your site, even including those that are behind a firewall, behind login, on a staging server, or even on a local server. And I want to show how to set those up. Now, this is on the screen a brand new account. This is the kind of account that you'll see, or this kind of screen that you'll see when you first register an account. It's a dashboard with no test results in it. Now, the first thing I want to do for my site monitor is I'm going to go over here to projects. I'm going to add a new project, and I'll call this Carl's Site Monitor. I'm going to put this site monitor on my own website. My project type is going to stay here for API, and then my project level settings are going to be here. There's another video on that, so let's not worry about that right now. I submit the project, and there's my site monitor project. Now, this site monitor project now, it's just a bucket. It's just a single bucket sitting there, waiting for me to dump results into it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to settings. Now, settings is currently the location for site monitors. This location might change, but this is the location for site monitors. So I see the link here, site monitors, and I'm going to click it. And of course, because this is a brand new account, and because this is the account that has no site monitors on it, we're going to add a new site. So a site monitor is, of course, the monitor of a site. So I'm going to hit add a new site. We get taken to this screen. Now, there's all these links here, link on the previous page, link on this page for the documentation. And the documentation for site monitors is very important for you to understand. So definitely go through here and make sure you read everything that's on this page so you understand what's going on. I'm going to go over all of these things as well in this video, but definitely make sure you go to that URL and read the documentation. The first thing I need is a name for my site monitor, and I'm just going to give it the name of the website that I'm going to be monitoring. And that's going to be carlgroves.com. I could also just put Carl's personal site. Doesn't matter. The next thing is the URL. Now, the URL is not a required field, and in fact, this actually doesn't really do anything. It's really sort of here for you as the user to provide information for you to understand what's being tested later. So you could put in whatever you want in there. I'm going to, of course, put in www.carlgroves.com. The next field here is the project to track results. Now, I don't want to use my default project because I set up a special project for that. So by doing this, by setting this select element to the value for the project I want, I now have a dedicated relationship between those two things. And I really, in terms of best practices, this is really how you want to do it. Now, this is where we start getting into a couple of interesting fields to pay attention to. The first one is whether I only want to test new pages or not. And what this means is, should the site monitor test only pages that it has never seen before? If I hit yes, then of course, anytime I add a page to my site, that will get tested. But if I change my existing pages, if I modify my existing pages, it won't test those. So that's an important distinction. Do you only want to test the new things, or do you want to test everything if it has changed? Now, testing only new pages, that's a great way to make sure that no new accessibility errors are added to your site when a page is added. So let's say you already know you have a pretty good website from an accessibility perspective, but you have a lot of people who are adding new content all the time. You might want to test new pages. Or if you want to test the same pages over and over, then you would do this. Now, why would you want to test the same pages over and over? Well, there would be a couple of reasons for that. The one reason would be that you want to track improvements on your pages over time, or maybe also monitor all of your pages for changes or something like that. And so what we can do is actually use this as a way to only test things that are that have changed since the last time it was tested. So what I'm going to do is go here. This is my personal website, and if I go to scroll down, I go to my articles, and here's a new article, and I'm going to inspect that, and I'm going to see that the main content of my site is always in this div with an ID of main. So what I want to do is not test that, because there could be other stuff in here that's considered in the main element. So the footer and stuff like that, that's in the main element. So maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to test the main content, the container section here. So let's see here, it's highlighted. So this is the container section. And actually I want to do this one. So what I want to do is I want to test the article. Let's see here. I want to copy the XPath. Actually, what I'm going to do, copy this. This is the class name. I'm going to copy this class name. That's going to be main call LG8 article. All right, so what we're going to put in here into this hash selector, this is going to be a special hash selector, the kind of thing that you could use to select this with JavaScript or CSS. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter main, then this selector, then article. So again, this would be the same kind of selector that you would add for selecting this stuff with CSS or with JavaScript's query selector all. And so now I'm going to not test only new pages. I'm going to test all my pages only if this content has changed. Again, only if this content has changed. So so what'll happen is I get a new page to present it to me. This is the page that shows me what my site monitor looks like, and it presents a little site monitor code snippet. And this is just like Google Analytics. If you've ever put Google Analytics on your site, you'll know what this does. We're going to go ahead and put this on my page. So this is this is IntelliJ. This is the IDE that I use. And I need to put this on the footer of my pages. So I'm going to go in here. This src or source is going to show the source for my files. So I have here about. It's my about page, category page, so on and so forth. The one that I want though is this one, single.html is the template for the blog postings, and so this is what I want here. So I'm going to put that in there, and now I have this site monitor. Now the site monitor has a couple of things that we want to pay attention to. This snippet has been generated for me, and so it has my site key, it has only new equals false, hash from, and inline. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's not going to inline assets. It's going to hash. It's going to determine the uniqueness rather from that. Then it's going to test every page, not only new pages, and using that. So that's that for that site monitor. But there's a couple of other things that we can do. Now let's walk through another example. And in this example, I'm going to test my site repeatedly. Whether it's changed or not, I want to test every page of my site if it has, no matter whether it's changed or not. So I'll do this. New site monitor. Call it Carl's wants a month test. And what I want to do, I want to test my site, every page of my site once a month. URL, as before. Oops. I do not want to test only new pages, but I do want to test my page once a month. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky. So I'm gonna get my calculator out, because this interval here needs to be in seconds. So there's 24 hours in a day. There are 60 minutes in an hour, and there are 60 seconds in a minute. So this will be, if I'm not mistaken, 86,400 times 30. All right, so that gives us 2,592,000 seconds. So that's how long, 2592000, how many seconds to wait in between testing. So there we go, and I hit that. And now I have a different snippet. And I can even, so we want to test all of those pages in my site. So we want to test all those pages in my site, all of those other pages rather, sorry, once a month. So these are my articles, but this is my about page. This is my category page template. This is my contact page, and this is my index page. So now I have it set up so all these pages, other than my blog articles, are going to be tested completely from stem to stern once a month. Now you can obviously change this to be anything you want. You can make that to be once a day, once a year, once a whatever, as long as that interval is in seconds. A couple of other nifty things that I can do is that I can test a couple of other things I can do. Carl's third monitor. Sorry, I'm losing my creativity here. Carl's third monitor. Now, what if there were portions of my site that I wanted to test, but you had to have a login? That's a problem normally. But under Site Monitors, there's actually a cool feature called a ping service. The ping service is, here's what happens, is when you add the Site Monitor snippet to your page, the first thing that happens is that it reaches out to the ping service and says, hey, can you access this URL? Now, if the ping service can, then the URL of the page is going to get sent over, right? No problem. That's the best way to test, so the URL gets sent. If the ping service returns no status code, which is kind of what would happen if it was a local instance or if it was a VPN or something completely blocked off for the entire world, that would actually get no response. Or if it got like a 401 or 403, which meant that it was behind a login or something, like inside your logged in area of a shopping cart or something like that. Then what happens is Tenon will send over the page source as a package. In other words, it'll send over all of the source of the page. There's another awesome feature as well, which is this monitor inlining service. So what will happen is the monitor, if it's told to inline those page assets, will also bundle up your CSS, your JavaScript, your images, and all that sort of stuff. Bundle those up as a part of that payload and send it over. So I'm going to say no to new pages. We're gonna test it as part of our main element here, something like that, and say that it should inline those page assets. So again, we get a third record here, and this one says site key, only new equals false. We're going to hash from there, and it's going to inline our sources as well. So that's really, really awesome. Now we are able to test all of the page entirely, regardless of whether it can be accessed from the outside world or not. Okay. Now, one thing you don't want to do. This is a really, really, really bad idea, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway to show you why you shouldn't do it. I'll call this Carl's bad idea, and I'll give him a URL. And I'm going to hit no. In other words, I don't want to test only new pages. I basically want to test every page. And I'm going to leave everything else alone. By doing that, what I have said is test every page over and over and over every single time that that page is accessed. Now, even on a low traffic website like my own personal website, you would be surprised at how often Googlebot comes by and tests and hits your site. Now, behind the scenes, we try to avoid testing pages that have been accessed by a bot. Basically, the way the monitor works is just like Google Analytics. It's going to get fired every time the page gets accessed. So something like Googlebot coming to your site, we try to prevent testing from that sort of stuff. So you should be good there. But then there's all sorts of other stuff, scraper bots and all sorts of other things that come by. Or if you just have a regular old, really popular website, you would be absolutely astonished at how often those pages get accessed and how that will eat up your API calls. Don't set a default site monitor with no options. That is going to eat up your API calls and it's not going to make you happy. Instead, we should go through here and take a look at all of the other things that we talk about in the documentation here. So the next thing we're going to talk about, because you've probably thought about it and wondered about it, is security. Now, the security, of course, this is definitely a case where you will be sending over payloads of information, and if it is behind a login, you do not want to send over PII as part of this. You could accidentally send over PII, and you should definitely not do that if you can prevent doing it. Now, everything is done with Tenon over TLS, TLS 1.2 or something like that. And so it's going to be secure. We have, encryption and all that sort of stuff on our side of things, but for absolute best practices for the safety of your customers' information, try not to send over PII if you can manage it. There's a couple of other pieces here that can help you do that. Now, the hash selector we talked about, you can hash only portions of the page. So again, if you have a skilled JavaScript developer on your team who knows how to use query selector all, then you could really leverage this very powerfully to make sure that the information that's getting hashed doesn't include PII or that is effectively selecting the parts of the page that you want to test. We've talked about inlining, we've talked about how long in seconds. Let's talk about some of these other parameters, though. These are available as part of all of this. Now, we've talked about some of these, only new and hash from. We've talked about those already. We've talked about interval. We've talked about inline. This is really cool. You can actually also send over source. So, in other words, you can just say, here's the deal, Site Monitor. This is the actual part that I want you to send. So let's run through that real quick. Now we talked about saying in this case here, we talked about saying we're going to hash from that, right? But we could also do the DOM source as a string, right? So we could say and now we're going to do this. call this source selector. So now I have a source selector pointing to the specific part of the page I want to test. So now what I can do is I can do this. I'm going to add that I want the source to be tested to be src selector. Now I know there's only one of those. Dot outer HTML. And then next thing I'm going to do is enter fragment true. So now what I've done, just to make it clear, I've selected the specific part of the page that I want to test. I have my site key. Now, what is happening here is that the hash from here is going to create a hash of that part of the page. If it has changed, then the Site Monitor is going to test that part of the page, and it's going to test it as a fragment. In other words, it's going to ignore everything else around the page. It's going to ignore the template stuff, and it's only going to test that specific part of the page. Really awesome stuff. Another thing I can do, by the way, is I can set a doc ID. Doc ID is very similar, or actually it's identical rather, to the content here that's in the Understanding API request parameters. Down here we talk about what the doc ID is. So we can use the doc ID. And also, if you happen to be a customer on a enterprise instance, you will want to also make sure you enter a proper host name for your different instance of Tenon. So for instance, let's say I'm on the demo instance right now. I will give it instance, and then my value here would be demo.tenon.io. If you're on your own instance, you know what to put there. The reason why you want to use that, by the way, is if your Tenon instance is within the same firewall, or within the same environment, rather, or the same network, whatever the case may be, then the ping service would be unique to your instance of Tenon, and so you want to make sure that if you can test entire pages, you do that. So that's that. That is it for Site Monitors. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Email address is talktous@tenon.io. You can also email support@tenon.io or sales@tenon.io, or you can reach me personally at Carl, that's Karl, @tenon.io. Thank you.